Budget meeting for Monday, January 30th. Approval of the agenda. Council Norbury.
That the January 30th, 2023 council budget meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder. Councilor Dussault. All in favor? Carried. Ms. Torval, before we get into it, did you want to introduce your guest or your staff member that's on Zoom?
Yes, I can.
Go ahead, Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you are aware, we have contracted I've given her a new name tonight, a budget specialist. So, for want of a better term, she's been working with staff, preparing our budgets, and I'd like to introduce to you Natalie Weiner. And she's coming to us from Vancouver Island. She's in Duncan. And if she would like to have a few words, just to give a little introduction before we get going here, that would be great. There you go, Natalie.
Thank you for the great introduction. Yeah, I'm Natalie Weiner. I've worked in local government finance for 24 years, working from a small municipality, which my first one was the village of Lytton, up to now working for Cowichan Valley Regional District. I've been working with your team. They've been great, helping me come up with different ways of doing budgets, and they've been I worked really well with them. I really appreciate the time and the patience they've been giving me as I'm trying to catch on really quick for how things work for your area. We went through a new process, so any questions on the report, projects, ranking, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to answer. If there's specific details about any of those projects, of course, I'll defer to the appropriate department.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And then we have Councillor Julik on Zoom as well. All right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. All right, our new business, 2023 Council Initiative and Special Projects. Report dated January 30th, 2023 from Interim CAO. Entitled 2023 Council Initiatives and Capital Projects for Council Review or Discuss, or Review and Consideration. A recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
Where are we here? Oh, that council received the council initiatives and capital projects report for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Norbury. All in favor? Carried. So just to get council on the way here, this one here is if we agree with it, we move forward and give it back to staff. If we want to remove something off this list, we can tonight as well. So whether we want to go from item or whatever way council wants to deal with it. Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. Might I suggest we just start from the top, work our way down?
Sounds good to me. It's good with council. Okay. Lighting of the existing trails. And that's from 2022. Any concern from council? Councilor Julik. Or sorry, Councilor Noxana.
I'm just wondering what trails,
Walking paths.
so the ones that are paved through town.
Correct. So the ones, I want to believe majority of it was along Monkman. There's along Mackenzie, a lot of the lights have the backlights on them, so it shines, but on Monkman, it's not there.
And is the plan the same to do the backlight on those, or to just go out for pricing?
Yeah, I think it was looking for staff to come back with an idea for lighting. So we talked about the idea of how Chetwynd did theirs. That was one of the ones we used as an example. BC Hydro has said they will no longer allow us to put lights on the backside of their poles. Because we've kept asking, we've asked, I believe staff's approached BC Hydro 3 or 4 times. And again, we were told, no, they will not allow that. So I use that as the idea, or the concept I used was Chetwynd. I mean, there's probably other communities out there that I haven't seen, but Chetwynd's close to our community, so that's the one I used.
Are you talking about the low lights and stuff?
Yeah, like just along their walking path.
Not the higher that they put in last.
I mean, and that's the thing, like, we just send this back to staff, they might come out with 3 or 4 different options. I'm not saying they're only gonna come out with what Chetwynd has done, probably look at what's best for Tumbler Ridge and our walking paths, but use other communities as examples that have it done already. Council's all good with that one, staying on? Okay. The jump trail. So this, I mean, I don't want to call it the jump track, but this one here that we're talking about is down by the light industrial where Southpaw and Golden Arrow busing is. It's a dirt track that was built just over the bank. There were some concerns raised about it in the previous council. So there was talk about whether we take it out, put money back into it to get it up to a better safety standard. So that's up to council. Council Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So I'm in favor of keeping this on just because in previous discussions, just to add a little more to what Mayor Kukalka is saying, is that that jump trail was not built to any type of specification. And, you know, as it stands, the Mountain Bike Association will be looking at that, coming back with a report on what we should be doing, whether to bring it up to, you know, Red Bull standard, which is they're the people who are in charge of that type of stuff, or if we need to just dismantle it. So I think we should stay, but I mean, with this low on the priority, let's see what the MBA has to say about it, and then we'll move on from there.
Okay, I guess back to staff on that one, just because I know I read the same thing. Is the Mountain Bike Association actually taking this on in Tumbler? My understanding previously, we gave direction to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought there was some discussion with staff and the Mountain Bike Association, but I'm not sure where we're sitting. But we can definitely follow up on that.
Okay. Council's good with that? Councilor Clickash?
Yeah, could we get some costs on that? Cost to take it out and cost to bring it up to standards?
Yeah, I think it's got it there too, different possibilities and cost estimates for dismantling fencing or assessment. So I think it's within that, Councilor Julik? Or, oh gosh, sorry, I got Councilor Julik tonight. I'm actually just gonna put the mics on discussion. Go back and forth. So just remember when you push your button, we'll be able to hear you. So we wanna leave that on? Council's good with that?
Well, so am I understanding, like, so anything that I have on my list does not have costs? Like, what we're saying yes to tonight means we want council or staff to come back with costs for us, yes?
Correct.
Okay,
On it, I'm not sure if you have your agenda in front of you, but we're looking at page 6.
no, I've got it. I
Okay.
just I thought you said something about the costs, and I'm like, well, did I get a different package than everybody else? Because I don't have any costs on mine, so, cool, thanks.
You bet. Okay, we'll leave that on. Community fishing hole. So we left it off due to capacity issue with staff. Councilor Noxana.
So where would this be? What was the idea behind having a fishing hole?
So the idea was using the existing pond behind the Vic Center. So there was some talk about it. There was other people involved. Mr. Deely was talked to, and there were some other divers willing to go in to look at it. But there were some concerns there. So, I mean, one, we need to discuss with our First Nations, because, I mean, they may see the concern or be wanting to be partners in something like that. We took it off the table, previous budget, just because of staff capacity limit. I mean, this is something that, you know, we can ask for them to slowly work on or not. So, Councilor Nobre.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. You know, to add a little more to that, until we have an express need for this, I'm not really in favor of devoting staff time to this currently, because some of the information that we got previously is that pond doesn't have water coming in and out of it, so whatever we put in there will die. So we'll have to restock it every year, which is possible. You know, Mark Deely was somebody who mentioned that they could potentially just restock it every single year, but it's not something that you can just stock once and then we're good to go and we can deal with it. It's a catch basin. It's not like a little lake. So, you know, we have a lot of work, I think, to create a community fishing hole. And, you know, we do have limited staff capacity, so I'd be in favor of removing this one from our initiatives.
Good. Council, other opinions? So just on that too, there was talk about diverting stormwater into it and stormwater out of it. So there is a whole bunch of different options, and maybe this is something that we just put a task force together and not use staff time. Just make sure there's any viability there, whether it's still with Mr. Deely and other people that had come forward. There were some people that opposed to it, but even just talking with our First Nation partners and just seeing if they think it's a good idea to stay away from. I'm not sure what council wants to do. Yeah, Councilor Barry.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So I think, you know, we talk a lot about how, you know, let's make a decision versus head nodding, so maybe it might be appropriate to make a recommendation. So I'll make the motion that we remove the community fishing hole from the council initiatives and capital projects.
Seconder? Councilor Clickash? Discussion?
I'll second it.
No, Councilor Clickash already did. Sorry. Discussion? Okay, all in favor? Carried. See something, say something, it's already completed. Are we, I guess just on that, are we seeing any feedback from this? Because I haven't even seen it within our community. It says completed on the sheet in front of me. And I haven't seen anything, I haven't been updated. Oh, sorry.
So we have been slowly implementing the QR codes, getting them around, and I don't know, I'll ask Ms. Finnegan if she can provide more information or further update to the QR codes.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Mayor and Council, so the QR codes from that original report from last year have been, the tool itself has been implemented. Using the QR codes around town we weren't able to do that until the new DTR website was up and running. The QR codes lead through to a live URL. Now that we have that tool in place, it actually now requires other departments and teams to come forward to see how they would like to use it in their, if they want to get service feedback or request information. So the tool is set up to be used by any team or department that would like to use it.
Okay. So go ahead, Councilor Barry.
I was just hoping maybe to have well, if we can get a little more explanation about what it is for a new council, because not everyone, I think, is aware of QR codes and just.
Sure. Okay.
Ms. Torval? Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Sorry. Yeah.
All good. So what COVID illustrated very nicely to us is what a QR code actually looks like. And I think everybody's quite familiar, you know, it looks like a little square barcode. So what that is it's a code of pixels that can then translate into a live URL, which is a website address. So if you go to a restaurant and there's a menu on the table and there's a QR code, you hover your phone over it or your menu scanner or your QR scanner over that code, and it'll actually directly take you to somebody's website to a menu or information. So the idea around this, and I think this original idea of see something, say something was a campaign that was initiated or rolled out in Penticton. They had an extremely high crime rate at one stage. I don't know if they still do. And it was a way for the community to, if they see or do or hear something, they could, if there was a QR code out and about, they could actually do some reporting back to the RCMP and the council on that. How we had anticipated that it working here is we could have a QR code on maybe the lampposts, and if you walked past, a community member walked past and saw a lamppost that wasn't, a street light that wasn't working, they could hover over the QR code and it would create a service request. So there's two opportunities. One, on the new website, we have a service request drop-down button. And I believe in the new asset management Marmac system, there's an option to collate service requests from the community. Happy to take any questions if that explanation didn't hit the button.
Okay, thank you for that. So one of my thoughts there, were one of the discussions I thought we had previously was also to have it out there, whether it's for overfilling garbage cans and stuff like that, so we were more on top of some of the stuff that we were seeing previously. I think that's why this came up, whether it was garbage cans overfilled, poop bags for the dog bins and stuff like that. That was some of what the ideas from council was. And to get that feedback back to staff so that it could be, whether the garbage cans can get emptied on our walking paths and stuff like that, or if people have broken a bunch of bottles on their walking paths. So do we have any QR codes out in our community yet? Ms. Torval?
The QR codes that the economic development team uses, we use them when we go to trade shows to send people to our visitor guide or some of our marketing material on some of our sales sheets for the properties out there. If any other team or department wants to use a QR code to better aid themselves in their workflow, it's a tool that they can use.
Okay. So I guess back to Ms. Torval, how do we give direction to make sure all departments are using these QR codes?
Just, sorry. Thank you, Mayor. We can just follow through from tonight. As Ms. Finnegan said, we were waiting to get our new website up and running so that we could get the various links and everything linked in. So, yeah, so we'll definitely be moving forward with QR codes in Tomlin Ridge.
Okay, thank you. And that's as long as council wants to. And this was a previous initiative by the previous council. So as long as this council sees that's a good way to move things forward within our community, whether it's for our visitors, our residents, and just so that we're using staff time, I don't want to make it that I'm directing staff just to do it. I want to make sure council's okay with the way we went and had staff start that program. Council Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So you provide a different, view than I did. I thought it would be a great idea to promote and enhance our tourism perspective, right? But ultimately, it's a way to generate feedback, and feedback that's not just, that goes somewhere, and I'm interested in seeing us try it, see how it starts, as long as it's not, abused or just turned into another complaint mechanism. Yeah, I'd like to see how it goes.
Okay. Council's good with that? Okay.
Can I just interrupt?
Yep, go ahead,
What
Council
are-
Jilek.
What are we asking staff to do then? Are we asking for ECDEV to put up signs? Are we asking for Public Works to put up signs? I still don't think that we've really hammered out what it is we want staff to do.
So staff already has, a QR code is already set up. Staff has
Yeah.
already said that ECDEV is using them in the trade show and stuff, and it's set up for all departments to use them if they want to use them. So we're saying from council that we'd like to see the staff implement the QR codes, whether it's within our community center, along our walking paths, the walking trail initiative trail in behind the Vic Center.
Well, I get that, but for me, I still feel like we're not giving staff enough direction. Like if we're wanting to see, so Councillor Norbury says that, he wants to see what it looks like implemented, but we're still not saying, well, I want to see them on the heads of the trails so that people, and encourage people to use them. Like to me, this feels like it needs a lot more development besides just putting up a QR code. And there should be a cost incurred in that, and I'd be interested in knowing the cost. Because while QR codes at one time were fairly popular, I don't know that they are anymore. Like I understand using them at the trade show because somebody as staff members, they're telling them how to use it. But to just put them up without any kind of signage, which again is a cost. So for me, I would rather see some kind of a cost analysis come back and have a little bit more clarity on what it is that we're asking staff to do. Besides just go put them up, because I know if I'm staff, I'm not running to put them up because I got 20 other things on my list that I'd rather be doing when I'm not really sure what council wants.
Okay, Councillor Hoffman.
I just have a bit of a different interpretation. I think this is just a technology backbone that we've put in place and our website is compatible with, and I would encourage the department heads and staff to just use it for what you think you need to use it for. I don't think it needs to be for tourism or for individual residents. It could be for staff for themselves to communicate with each other for whatever they need to do. I don't want to really limit it as please put up these QR codes in this spot for this reason. It's there, it's already been done. The majority of the cost has been implemented and completed. So here you go, here's something that might be useful to you or to your staff or to the residents of town. And as they implement and it comes back, I think we can perhaps give more direction if needed. But I don't want to limit it with my limited use of QR codes myself. I mean, this might really be useful to somebody at some level within either staff or residents.
Well, and maybe I'm
Just hang on a second,
misunderstanding.
Councillor
Okay.
Julik.
Sorry,
Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So I think Councillor Hoffman, brought up a really good point in that we have the technology backbone of the website. The costs associated is stickers, right? Like all we need to do is it's free to generate a QR code to send someone to a website. So that infrastructure is already there. We don't need to pay anything additionally for that. All we need to do is pay for stickers because you can generate a QR code. I can make one on my computer right now. And so that side of things, maybe a little bit of staff time. I don't want to get too into the details of telling staff where we want everything. I'd like to trust their judgment on where they feel that they should go. And we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Councillor Julik?
so maybe I'm just needing some clarity then. Like what I'm understanding is that we've got it set up on the website, but we don't have any QR codes set up anywhere. And what I'm understanding is that we're just telling council, or we're telling staff to just tell department heads to come up with a plan on their own and to just go put stuff up. But where are we putting the stickers? Like I get that part, like the technology part, but do we not have to have signs? Like maybe I'm just not clear on what it is that's going on.
Yeah. So I guess and I didn't realize there was a holdback waiting for our website update. And that might have been brought back before council, and it was something I missed. So, I mean, we can ask for that same report that was initiated by the previous council come back before this council. And you'll see the information in it. I don't remember word for word the information in it or the given direction by council of the day and what we were looking for. But it was, I mean, you can see it right there. See something, say something. The concept there was if you see something to say something. So it went back to, I don't know what department. Again, that was left with staff, and if they, it was for people to communicate, whether it's visitors or residents. So I think it's best just to have that come back to council, and then we're all up to date, right? I mean, I can't remember word for word. My apologies. So if we can just, no problem. So maybe we can, we can leave it on there if council's good with it. We can ask staff. I mean, do we need a motion to bring that back, or can you just supply that information via emails? If council's okay with that, I don't like to just ask staff to do stuff without motions, but that one's a pretty easy one. Okay. So is that good with council? Perfect. So from 2021, I don't know if we want to talk about any of these. If council does, I think you bring them forward. The perimeter trail development, it's actually on further in the engagement in here. The lighting's already been talked about. Gym expansion, I think that report should come before council, but there's lots of details waiting to happen, whether we have room, whether we have a facility that possibly will move out of the facility where we can, so there's still some pieces of the puzzle to play with there. Community fishing hole's already been removed, and the cogeneration feasibility study, there was a report done, and I think maybe we should just get that back before council for information. Do we need a motion on that? I know that's already done, so. So on that, on the cogeneration feasibility study, will council just get that back? We'll get that back from staff. And the idea was there, we actually hired a company, or staff did, I apologize, and just looked at different options we had. And I think council can just have a look through that. Council good there? Okay, on to page 7. And do we want to do the same thing, line for line? Okay, best way to do it. Previously, this is how we did it, because we used to jump all over the place, and then we'd flip pages and have to come back to the next page and go 3 pages forward. So I don't plan on reading out exactly what they're asking for. I will read out the department, and we'll start at the very top, and we'll work our way down the list. Okay, so community services with golf course.
Sorry, Mayor.
No, don't be sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Hoffman.
I just think it would be helpful to know, like, what are we talking about? Do we want to go forward with it? Do we want a cost analysis with it? Like, what are we assessing for each of these before we start going down this list?
Yep, so do we want it to stay within the ask from staff? And if we do, we're going to definitely see cost to it. This is not an item that's going to automatically get approved. We're asking staff to leave it on there, and then they'll come forward with a cost. Sorry, my bad. I thought I'd said it at the beginning, but maybe I didn't. So that, none of us have them, right? I mean, I have cost. There's a couple items in here that have cost because they have it from previous, but majority of it that we see fit to leave it here and debate it. So if we're going to take something off, it'll be debated, removed if it needs to be. But then it gives staff something to come back for. They know what they're putting into their budget so that they're not putting up a bunch of time into building their budget with all the cost or approximate cost, and then we start. And it doesn't mean we can't, right, guys? Just so everybody knows, if we see a cost and we're like, well, we didn't think it was going to be that much, we can still remove it. But this gives staff the move forward on getting costs for us. Okay, so the first one is community service golf course. And this was a councillor initiative. Councillor Clickash.
Yes, Your Worship, I surveyed the golf course decks and that, and they do have damage on them, and they have to be repaired this year. It takes a while to repair them, and they should be moved ahead. We can't just leave it for another year, because we'll rot out the wood that's underneath.
I guess just get clarity from staff. I mean, I see how it's been scored, so we obviously have high priority. Probably, doesn't mean we can't debate taking it off the list. Medium and then lower. I mean, lower is pretty much the easier one to remove, or still wait for costs on. It doesn't mean it needs to be removed just from council side. But even medium, I don't disagree with you, Councillor Clickash, but I just want that from staff. Like, this is the information you're looking for from council if we want to remove anything. If it's not removed, you will come back with cost, right? So this, we don't know right now. It could come back at $500,000 to redeck the. I'm not saying that's the number. I'm saying I'm just saying. Then we have a chance to have that debate that maybe it's not worth fixing. Let's build a new one. Yes. Okay. Just so council's aware. Okay. So everybody's good with that one. Okay. Public Works boat launch. And some of them have them, like, if you go over to comments, staff's already taken the time to put in a comment there, so. No issues. Public Works walking. Yep, go ahead, Councillor.
Sorry, Natalie, you had your hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and say that this is already able to be covered in the operational budget. So unless council wanted to have that removed, it would be going ahead without an impact to taxation.
Yep, that's why I mentioned that. Thank you for that. Sorry if I don't catch you, just speak up on Zoom. I try to look up. Normally I look for a yellow hand or somebody waving, and I didn't see you, so my apologies. I don't even know how to do the yellow hand on there, so.
Yeah, I don't know on Zoom either, so I'll do my best. I'll speak up.
Okay, yeah, and if staff catches them, if Ms. Dorval or any other councillor catches somebody on Zoom waving, just say something. I have a hard time looking up when I'm looking towards you guys, so my apologies to the people on Zoom. Public Works walking pass. So I guess the only question I have, and a question back to staff in regards to determining costing for 2024, is there a reason why we're pushing it to 2024? Ms. Dorval. Oh.
I can speak on that.
Ms. Natalie.
Yeah, I can go ahead. The reason we were looking at putting that into 2024 is that would take some considerable time, especially with the way markets are. It was recommended that we be looking at what needs to be done, which areas need to be done, and so it would be in the 2024 budget with more accurate funding.
I got kicked off. But we do have a trail plan. Like, we already have a trail that we've marked out. We had a costing from 2022 for this exact same trail that I brought forward. The only thing we were waiting back from staff before we took it off because we didn't know about the right-of-way along the highway, and staff was given direction to find that out in 2022. Okay.
Council can choose to put leave that one on. If it's along a highway, does that need MOTI approvals and assessments as well then beforehand?
Yeah, that part I don't know. I know that was the direction that was given to staff for 2022 was to get a hold of them and find out what was needed and if we actually had the enough right of way there, which there's quite a bit of right of way there, but they were supposed to reach out.
Okay.
So I'm fine with the 2024, but maybe if we need that to come back for another motion, that's fine. Good with staff, council?
I'm just wondering if there's paving planned later, like if we have paving planned this year, great. But also if we could piggyback on some paving coming up, like if Public Works knows if that's gonna happen, that's what I would be interesting. I'd rather postpone it if we have something coming up for the district.
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor Julick, but sometimes it's two different paving companies. One's a smaller machines. Trail pass are smaller and the big machine doesn't fit there. Public Works, Flatbed Creek, the parking lot expansion. Again, that's for 2024. Councillor Noberry.
I'm just looking for a little bit of clarity. Flatbed Creek, we're talking about the flatbed campground or the
Sorry.
the trailhead along the highway? I know they're familiar.
Yeah, it's the Flatbed Falls Trailhead.
Okay.
So if we can just call it that in our budget would be, I know we talked about that when we had our strategic planning too. I think we just worded it wrong on the sheet. But yeah, it's my understanding, Councillor Noxana, if we're wrong, fill us in, but it was Flatbed Falls Trailhead. Yeah.
I'm guessing both of these, quality and flatbed, then we'll just assess them and then come back in 2024.
That's my understanding. Ms. Torval.
Yes, thank you, council. Yes, and this one also need MODI consultation and approval as well.
Okay. But that is something that'll be worked on in 2023 budget. Are we putting any money to that? And the reason I ask that is when we see staff to investigate costing for 2024 budget, do we need a motion or recommendation later on to make sure that we're giving staff direction to make sure those are being looked at, whether it's through MODI or that? And the reason I ask that is who owns them? Like who, I don't, personally, I don't know that. I don't know if the District of Tunbridge actually owns either of those. Maybe it is MODI, or maybe it's Parks. And if it is, maybe those are the individual groups that we should be partnering with. And, you know, if they were to do one, we could do the other. And, you know, then we're not paying for both for signage and stuff. Okay. Councillor Noxana, you're good with that? Okay. Councillor Julick?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I know that we talked about that at a TAC meeting once, so that information might be in the EDO department somewhere. The other thing I was wondering though, could we still possibly get a garbage can out at Quality Falls? That's the kind of a big deal, like, and possibly even an outhouse. Like, the parking lot is fine there, like, I don't know that we need anything done with the parking lot for Quality, but we do need, I see the priority being outhouse and garbage can. For sure, a garbage can if we can make it happen.
Okay, and maybe that was a miss from our side when we had our strategic planning. So if we could just change that on the budget sheet, maybe saying Quality Falls, garbage can and outhouse. And again, I think we need to reach out and find out who owns it. Again, if it's Park and Recs, maybe they're willing to put it in there and the district can partner up on who services it. Good with council? Okay. Do you need any more direction there, Mr. Torval?
No, that's fine, thank you.
Community service spray park. If we can get just some information why there's no notation there from staff. Councilor Norbert.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So from my perspective, I'd like for this to be moving forward as a report on costs, all that sort of stuff, before we say like we're gonna go do it. I'm looking for a report, and if we need to bring somebody in to take a serious look at it, then that's fine with me, but I'm looking for a report on this one personally.
I'm the same as you, and that's kind of why I was asking. There's no staff input there. Like, I don't think we're looking at building it on May 1st, but you know, I mean, I know there's some stuff on a shelf within our community, and I'm just curious from staff side.
That's what I was gonna ask, that possibly Councillor Clickash knows, because I know this isn't the first time the spray park's been talked about, so I feel like there must be something somewhere in Town Hall.
Councilor Clickash?
There was something here, I don't know where it is now, but for a spray park, it was done, I think back in about 10 years ago. So, but the thing is, we have to get a location first, and before you call anybody in, because you can't give a price unless you got a location. So you have to determine the location, and I think you should contact Fort St. John and find out what their problems they're having over there with their spray park, so.
Ms. Dorval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Community Services has quite a bit of information and reports prepared or pretty much fully prepared, so we can bring those back to
Okay.
Council.
Okay. Thank you. Council, good with that? I heard Chetwynd's is doing really well, Councillor Quick-Ash. Chetwynd's is doing really well, I heard. Community service, youth activities. This one here is in regards to the water slide that was removed due to safety concerns. Yeah. So, Ms. Dorval, if I can just ask, like medium, like we say it's a safety concern, it was removed by staff from safety concern, why would that not be higher if it was already in our pool? Like I'm just concerned that we remove something and that we didn't, whether we had no budget, so I'm not sure when it was removed, I apologize, but like, to me, when we're removing something, it was obviously an asset that was within the building. And I'd be curious on why we strike it as a 14, which is low, but it should be just automatic. I'm not going to say automatically replaced without council knowing the cost. Is there a reasoning? Oh, go ahead.
I can speak to the scoring on that. And the scoring was because it was already removed. Their liability and the risk has already been reduced because it has been removed versus an asset that's already there and still has the opportunity to be utilized. So that is why it's scored into the medium range versus it being in the high risk. Whereas if you had the slide there and there's risk to injury and liability.
Okay. Youth activities, the youth center outdoor landscaping, grass seed, picnic tables, enhance the youth center outdoor space. Just from council side. Councilor Noxana?
I'm just gonna talk again, sorry.
Hang on a second,
'cause
hang on a second.
Yeah.
Councilor Noxana?
This one has current operating funds next to it, so is the plan then just, I had assumed that we would be asking them to do that under their current operating funds?
That's what I get. Councillor Julik?
I would like to see, like, I know when we talked about it, or what I think we talked about is figuring out something for the youth to do that they're not already doing. And I wondered about possibly setting up a youth advisory group. And so I don't know that this necessarily has to be a budget talk. Like, I don't know what kind of cost would be with that to begin with. I can't imagine it would be substantial. So not sure if we can just do that in the middle of the year or not. And to see what, like, I'm not against beautifying the area, but I wonder about spending any kind of money on something that we don't know if the kids are going to use anyways.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Julik. I have the same concern. I know there was a picnic table put out at the corner of the building at one point. It might still be there. But my concern is what's the cost to it? But the other thing is we talked, the item below is increased activities for youth arcade, discounted gym and stuff. Like, maybe we need to look at those two items as one. And instead of adding a whole bunch to the outside, to me, when they say youth center, that's to me the community center. It's a community center, even though that's right outside the youth center, it's still part of our community center. So to me, I don't understand why we would put it under the youth center that we're doing, grass seeding and landscaping with picnic tables and stuff. When to me, it would be for the community center, not for the youth organization. So I think when we see some costs put to there, I think we can have a better discussion on that. Councillor Quick-Ash.
Your worship, isn't that, aren't they considering the gym in there? Where the youth center is? Or part of the,
Like moving the gym there?
moving part of the gym there?
I don't know, maybe you know more than I know. Ms. Torval?
Well, thank you, Council. I'm not aware that there's any discussion about removing the gym, not at this point. I know there's been discussions in the past about moving the gym or relocating the gym, but not at this point.
Yeah, I know there was lots of ideas thrown out by council, like especially the previous council, moving it up to the library, into room 4 and 5, expanding it into the daycare, moving the daycare if the standalone building came. There was lots and lots of ideas thrown out, to try to expand that gym. That's maybe where that came from, but I think if we get some numbers, then maybe there could be more of a discussion in regards with council on that, because the next one down is the increased activities for youth, arcade or that we talked about, I don't know, pitching, cage and stuff like that previously. Council.
On that one now?
Yep.
I absolutely would not be in favor of us building an arcade for youth, but I do think that we need to look at other things, whether it's reduced gym passes, pool passes. I have no idea. Trading a bag of garbage from the sidewalks for a pool pass, something, just to capture youth who want to access these facilities but maybe don't have the financial means to do that.
Good comment. So just before Council Norrie, my thought, it wasn't about building an arcade, it was just adding things, whether it's the curling rink for the summertime. So I mean, maybe it's the wrong comment there about building an arcade, but it's just adding to it, like whether it's a batting cage or hockey nets, but ping pong tables and stuff like that. The youth centers, I mean, I can be honest, I haven't been in there recently, but when I was, it is fairly small in there when they have quite a bit of youth in there. But to me, before we start adding pool tables or ping pong or batting cages and stuff, I think we need to talk to the youth. We need to hear from the youth. And I have an idea, and I just don't want to bring it up at a budget meeting, but it'll be coming up as a notice of motion to get council's approval. And I think that'll assist some of the movement on these items, is an idea I have, and I'll send it out to council, but I'll be doing it as a notice of motion, so. Council Nober?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. It sounds to me like we all want something, but we haven't really come up with a solid plan of what we should be doing. And I think you're absolutely correct in that we do need to have consultation with the youth, because we can build it and they may not come. So, I think it may be appropriate for us to remove these for now, or if we move them to the back burner so staff doesn't dedicate time to it. That would be my concern, is that staff putting time towards this initiative before we know what we're doing. So maybe we can go to staff and ask them if they have enough here, or if maybe we should wait and have a chat at a P&P to have a little more discussion with the youth center. But yeah, I'm concerned about this moving forward when we don't really know what we want. So staff may come back with something, and it may be a waste of their time, and I don't want to do that. So.
Yeah, and I agree. My thoughts is they can't move forward until the budget's approved. And we have a few more months here, and I think that notice of motion will assist us. I mean, we can put it off on take it off for now, but I think if we leave it there, at least we're budgeting for it. Notice of motion come out, council approves of it. I think it'll assist us. I mean, maybe we don't have it all done by budget, but then we have the dollars there if we needed them. So if council's okay with just leaving it for now, and then we have a meeting next week, so. Okay. Community gardens expansion. I think that one's, that's up to council, but I mean, I think that's just reaching out to an organization, a not-for-profit organization, to see what their opinion is. If they need anything from if they want to expand, if there's, staff can come back, we'll have a dollar figure there. I believe last time the community forest really assisted in regards to making sure they had logs. So to me, it's just volunteer time, if they want to expand. Whether they don't want to do it up there, but expansion would work, and they need to find a second volunteer group to do one on the lower bench or something, I think, if they reach out. Agree with council? Gym, winter activities, indoor soccer and walking pass. So, I mean, I think this kind of goes with the top ones when we talk about the youth center. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not just for youth. A batting cage would not be just for the youth. It would be for the residents of Tumberge or visitors. I think same thing, it can just be left, I think. Okay. Community or corporate administration, culture and awareness, safety. I'm going to disagree that it's on a low, and I understand how it gets marked or whatever. I'd like to see a council agree of moving this to a high priority for staff to, I can give them the contact information for the consultants that were used at the PRRD. But to me, I think it's very, very important that council and staff, whatever staff decide, that our CO decides, that takes this culture, safety awareness. Council Nober.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I would agree in moving this up in high priority. I think, as leaders, we need to set the bar, and we need to be the ones moving forward. So I'd like to see this, put above most. Thank you.
Ms. Torval, would we need a motion on that? Like, I understand, and I don't want to take away from what staff have done in regards to scoring. I just want to, and I understand just because it's low doesn't mean it's off the table. But to me, this is something I really think that we need to be on top of in 2023. And to me, there is some staff time there, but I want it to be. Would you need a motion to move it up as high? And are we allowed to do that? I mean, I guess I don't want to wreck the way this was scored and the final rankings come out. If we can just get clarity on that. I don't want to wreck that what staff's been working on, so.
Yeah, no worries. I know that Natalie wants to speak, but I just want to reassure council, this is your budget, so yes, you can just feel free to move and change whatever, and I'll ask Natalie to speak to that as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the scoring was done to help assist council in making some of these hard decisions. It kind of gives a guideline of where staff have put things at, just to first start off with a discussion.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, do you need a motion? Would you like a motion?
Before the motion?
I would prefer a motion so we could see that it's a high priority and then it's not lost. It can go follow through the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hoffman.
I'd like this defined. I just think it's just a broad statement, and I'm not sure exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I don't have all the information with me, but it's culture, awareness and safety. So it was a group that came in through the PRD. The PRD hired a group, came in. One of the gentlemen that work for the corporation is out of West Mo, and the lady is from down south. And I don't want to get into it because I don't have all the information in front of me, so I don't want to be wrong when I say what it's about, but it's about culture and awareness,
So what's the safety?
making sure we're using the right terminologies and stuff like that.
Okay,
So I can get that to you, and I think we don't have to spend the money, but if it's a high priority, I can give the information to Ms. Torval. She can reach out to the organization, because it's not my job to reach out to contractors, then she can get the proper information for the district of Tunbridge.
Okay, no, fair enough. There's just the safety word in there just seemed,
Yeah, it's just what PRD, well, this is what the company calls it.
okay, fair enough.
I would like to have a couple of options, or if we're gonna go ahead with and I just wanted to say this before we made the motion, I'm not adverse to using the people that you had experience with, Mayor Kirkauka, but I'm not against that. I would just like to see where they are, I would like some background on them, and then that there possibly is another option. I really like the fact that there's somebody from West Moberly on the team though, so I feel like I would lean that way, but I would also like some information on who they are. This is a fairly important topic, and I don't think we would be out of bounds to even reach out to Westmo or Soto to see what they think as well, and make sure that we're getting the right information from the right people.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that. I just use this company. It doesn't mean there's other companies out there, but I plan on just passing the company name on, and Ms. Torval can do the search. Councillor Noxana.
I'm gonna make a motion, unless you wanted to speak about it first, that we move this to a higher priority.
Okay, seconder. I'll second it. Oh, sorry, Councillor Quick-Gosh. Okay, discussion. Sorry, I beat you. I just agree with it, so. Councillor Norberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. The only comment that I would make is that Blueberry First Nations is also another asset. I spoke with one of their council members, and they mentioned that they had quite a plethora of speakers that be willing to come to Tumbler Ridge. They didn't say anything about price, so that's just another option for staff. I can pass that information along if you like.
Thank you for that. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Protective Services rezoning. Any comments, concerns, or questions? Councillor Noxana.
This is just to bring back the policy and make it more streamlined, isn't it? To rezone for lot expansions,
Ms. Torval?
making the whole process a little easier.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I think it was to, possibly with that as well as other rezoning applications that we do receive from, for various situations. So, yeah, and we are actually, as you know, we are reviewing the zoning bylaw right now, so it might be a good time to see what we can do. There are some things, though, that are legislated, and no matter what we do, we cannot reduce the timeframes, because there's the notice times and everything else times, so.
Okay. Okay. Revitalization of downtown. So community center front desk renovations to include accessibility grants are possibilities. Any concerns? Councilor Knoxana.
I would love to see the breakdown. If we're getting a cost on this, we all want to see an accessible community center, but I would like to see things like charging stations broken out, because if that makes the cost go up a lot, being able to take just that part out would be really helpful, because I see that as an extra, whereas being accessible is not. We need to be accessible.
Yeah, I think if this proceeds through budget, we'll see the plans before they get approved. Like, we would approve what they're gonna do for the rental. So previously, we've seen plans, and there were some changes, it was moved around, it was stopped, it was started. So again, I think once it goes through council, makes the last decision if we're gonna actually do the renovation. You get to see the whole plan, add your input. Councilor Tulik, did you have your hand up? I thought I'd seen it.
I did, but I was just gonna say I was okay with the charging station, so if we're just gonna see the numbers and we can debate that later, that's fine with me.
Okay. Enhance the Roman walkway area, plant tree, new benches. Okay. Unistone chipping stones and unlevel services, aquatic linkway entrance on Front Street. Councillor Nobury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. My only comment with this one is maybe this should be higher, because this could be a safety issue. I know that in recent weeks, I've been having a lot of discussions with persons with mobility concerns, and they are quite upset. So my only comment would maybe move this up to a high priority versus medium. And if we need to give that direction to staff, or if they feel that this project could be completed in a timely manner with it being at medium versus upping it to high.
Yeah, Ms. Dorval? In regards to where it's ranked, we're still looking at a completion date in 2023? Okay. And are we going to get, I guess my comment would be coming back, I mean, it's not in regards to so much to the linkway, but in the Front Street, I'm assuming we're talking about in front of the community center? Just want to get clarity on that.
In Front Street. I believe it is, but I would just confirm with Ms. Notley. Yes, it is. Yeah.
So are we looking at different options? Because I know when they did the renovation, there was huge concerns when they put the stones back down. And I am hoping that we're going to see a different option maybe. Like, it is not just in front of, to me, the community center. Wherever we put those bricks, I mean, it's bad around the whole community. But some of the places we don't own. So, but other options will come back to council, whether it's cement or whatever, just decided there?
Yes.
Okay. Just so council knows that. Replacement of 23 community trees in addition to the placement of permanent blue spruce tree in the Roman walkway area. So, I mean, this is just them replanting whatever is, to me, is no longer living or adding to certain areas. Council, all good? Okay. Maintain a lively, attractive, and functional town center area by promoting the town center as a place to live, work, shop, and visit. Continue to place emphasis on high-quality design of buildings and public spaces. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you. I don't really understand what we're budgeting for. Like, is this like promotional materials or advertising, or what is this really for?
Ms. Dorval.
Ask Ms. Finnegan to speak to that. I believe it's part of one of the plans.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Oh, excuse me. There's no budget at this stage. This is a overriding theme or topic in the investment strategy and the tourism strategy. So it's a a project that we continually work on. It would include something like the business facade improvement program that we have running that we've already got $20,000 funding for. So there's all little projects that fall under this big umbrella called revitalisation. There is funding available for a revitalisation planning scheme, which we could apply for this coming year in conjunction with our design guidelines to see what else we want to see downtown. There is also more funding once that plan's in place. If there's a plan that we need for something bigger than all these little projects we're doing, there is funding available over the next year or two for infrastructure for revitalisation.
So,
Councillor Hoffman?
so as I understand, it's basically a line item to put grant money and whatever else is being budgeted for this umbrella? So just a line item that you need there to keep track of this?
Ms. Torval?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Clickash?
Is this to revitalize or change the facades on buildings? I don't understand what it's for. Our buildings or private buildings or what?
Ms. Torval?
Thank you. Ms. Finnegan, if you could expand on that.
So creating a nice to look at livable place downtown is what normally attracts new residents and businesses into our town centre, which is part of our economic activity that we do in economic development. So the business facade funding program, we get $20,000 from NDIT to distribute to businesses who want to improve their signage. So if, for example, a business has moved in and they want to update their signage to something more colourful or more attractive, they can apply to that. If you sort of imagine it's the same as upping your street appeal on your house when you're putting it up for sale, that's what we're going to try and do downtown, is we're always trying to make it look fresher, brighter, and that's why you'll see all these other projects like the community centre, the trees are all part of revitalisation. They're all projects that fit under that, improving our street appeal.
Okay, thanks.
Good. Good. Okay, on to page 8. Okay, Roman walkway stairs, number 1. Okay, P7 and P8 water well valve replacement and flow meter installation. Water supply and distribution assessment. Bobcat Toolcat, vehicle and attachments. Councillor Hoffman.
Just a clarification, there's another one being asked for below. Are these two separate Bobcats or for separate departments, or is this like a shared item? The second from the bottom one is also asking for a Bobcat.
2 separate ones.
Thank you.
Councillor Norbury.
With that, could we potentially lend this out to other departments?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I think, I don't know. I think we leave it there, and when we get down, we can have a discussion about that.
Okay.
I think that's what you want to discuss later on, down further.
It could aid our next, it could aid that discussion, knowing if this was for Public Works only, and if that's the case, that's the case. Like, that's fine. If they want to keep it low hours to prevent any sort of dings, downtime, I get it. And that's something, we should just hammer out now.
If you want to ask that question, you can go. That I don't know. I just thought I was going to ask it back then, but you can ask that, Council or Ms. Torval. Shared unit in regards to the Bobcat Toolcat.
Thank you. I'll ask Mr. Bradley to speak to that.
The Bobcat Toolcat would be used for Public Works use only.
Okay. Okay, main water line emergency parts. Okay. District utilized confined space SCBA's replacement. Okay, replacement of lagoon blower compressor. Municipal spreader. Transfer station upgrades. Councilor Norbury?
Can we get, I apologize if it was discussed at our last meeting, but can we just get a little bit more expansion on what this is?
Mr. Orville?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I will ask Mr. Bradley to expand on that, please. Mr. Bradley?
Thank you. Yeah, what we're looking at improving down there is efficiency and changing the layout of the land down there, so to speak, to compartmentalize what we're doing down there as far as where we put the steel and the contractor bins, as well as our recycling program with BC Product Care. So.
You good there? Okay. Okay, Bobcat for Community Center, Community Services, sorry. Councilor Noxana?
I'm just wondering if there's a Bobcat that's already being used. That would be my understanding from Public Works. So if Public Works is getting potentially the other machine, would there be a machine that they can then hand down to the community center? Or it could be stored at the community center but used for Public Works as well?
Yeah, so I plan on bringing this discussion anyway, so I'm glad you started. So my comments there are, is we have a Bobcat down at the transfer center. So previously, I was on previous council, got sold on buying a Bobcat for the transfer center, and at the same time buying that, we bought a car hauler. So the idea there was that if the community center at any time needed it, it could be put onto a car hauler and brought back up to the community center. Last year's budget, we had the same discussion, and my understanding is Public Works is doing the snow removal at the community center. So I guess my question back to staff there is that not the concept of the Bobcat at the transfer station? Is if it was needed, it was supposed to be transported if it wasn't being used. But in regards to, it says here about needed for snow and ice cleanup at the community center, is that not Public Works that does the snow removal? Mr. Orville?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I believe for the most part, Public Works does do snow removal. However, there are times when maintenance staff is required to clear their sidewalks over on the front at times, especially when there's icy conditions and those sorts of things. But I will ask Mr. Bradley to speak further to that.
Currently, Public Works takes care of majority of the snow removal. The Bobcat, to my knowledge, for the community center, isn't limited to snow removal. It is also to have forks so they can unload their own freight, and they're not reliant on Public Works to assist them.
Okay. Councillor Jelic?
Is the possibility of a forklift cheaper? Like if we don't need it for the snow removal, I don't know what the cost differences would be, but possibly we could go with something less expensive if it's just a matter of unloading stuff.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. My other comment would be is, I guess how many deliveries to get, and is there a big wait time for Public Works to go and unload for them? I know I've asked this question a few times, and I'm going to ask it again. Is there a huge wait time for Public Works when they get called to go over to the community center to offload freight? Mr. Orville? Or is there that much freight that comes into our community center?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I will ask directors if they can respond to that. Mr. Bradley?
That I get back to you guys on. At this point in time, I'm not certain as to the wait times.
Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakaka. So I do remember when we discussed this last year and it was removed because it was felt at that time it'd be suitable enough that for the sharing to happen between the transfer station and the community center. But the way I see it, we're asked again this year, so obviously that our arrangement doesn't fit the needs of the community center. So like from my side, for information would be how that sharing system is not working. You know, like maybe it takes too long for them to bring it up, or there's not enough staff to get it onto the car hauler to bring it up. Like those are some things that I would be, curious about, because, I think if staff tells us they need something and it's brought back again, I'm inclined to give it more thought. And that's something that I'd like to see a little more of on like, okay, what's changed from this year to last year? You tried it, didn't work. You know, we're asking for it again. So that'd be my only comments to staff. Not against it, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you need to get more information, but my biggest concern there is when we start buying more and more equipment is the replacement. You're constantly replacing it then, and that's a huge cost. Like, I can't remember, of course, we don't have costs in front of us, but that's a huge cost. Like, another Bobcat, you know, we had one down at the transfer station. I can't remember, it was so many low hours last year when we asked, because it wasn't even being used a whole bunch down there. And that's my concern is, as we add more and more equipment, that, yeah, is it a want, is it a need? Is there a breakdown that we can fix or help fix? Because as we buy more and more equipment, then we have to replace it. 5 years, 10 years, whatever, we're again replacing equipment. So, guess do you need a motion in regards to getting more information back on this one, or will that just automatically come forward?
Thank you, council. I think we would appreciate a motion to bring back more information, a report with more information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I'll make a motion that we request a report on more information to the usage and needs of Bobcat at the community center.
Second. Councilor Rousseau. Discussion. Councilor Clickash.
I think this should be a low priority item.
Well, we're gonna,
Because I don't believe that that's going to be a solution down there.
okay. And I think that with getting a report back, we'll have a bit of information from the staff side on that, and then we can, you know, it's, to me, it's not saying that staff doesn't need it and everything else and stuff like that. I just want to make sure that we're buying the right assets, because to me, it's the replacement costs that add up, and the insurance and the wear and tear and stuff. That's my concern. So any more discussion in regards to the motion on the floor for a report? Councillor Hoffman. Sorry.
And I don't know if it makes sense, but possibilities of an alternative to a Bobcat for the functionality that they're looking for, instead of just the pricing and justification of a Bobcat. If a hand truck or an electric hand truck or something will do the freight, that might make sense here. And if we don't think it's the best for snow, then maybe something along those lines. But let's expand the scope a little bit of what the options would be.
Councillor Norbury? Oh, sorry.
Yep, you're right. I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe we should make an amendment, so I'll amend it to the motion.
Just saying, I don't know if we need to amend it. I think they can come back with that information. I don't think we need to amend that. That's just my thoughts there. We're asking for the information, and I think the discussion's been had that, you know, is there other alternatives, or that's all that there is? And I think let them come back, because to me, when they say snow removal and stuff like that, they're not gonna get a Bobcat down the street, on Front Street on that sidewalk. You're not gonna fit a Bobcat in anyways. They have snow blowers for that, so. I think if we get the information, then we can go from there. Okay, any more discussion in regards to the motion? Okay, call the question. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Maintenance radios. Okay. Page 9. Fire suppression system. Councilor Noxena?
So is this like a mandatory inspection that needs to be done every 5 years? And if so, would that not just be ongoing maintenance, or is this something extra that we need to look into and budget for?
Yeah, no problem. Ms. Torval?
Oh, thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, it is a mandatory legislated inspection that need to be carried out every 5 years.
Okay, curling rink, janitor closet. Okay. Upgrade for the district's water supply system. The regrout and replacement of main pool. I guess my only question to staff would be, was there carryover funds for this, that if it was budgeted previously and wasn't done?
to Ms. Notley. You're aware.
At this point in time, I don't have the funds available that are being carried forward, but I can take a look into it for you.
Okay.
Thank you. I just believe that the strategic planning, it was talked about, how it was budgeted for, the job never got done, I believe.
We're not aware of any funds.
Okay. Breathing apparatus fit tester. Replace copper piping. Councillor Clickash.
I think this is in the rec center.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful of what kind of piping you put into a commercial building. So I would suggest they look into that.
Okay, so just on the far side, the far right, they talk about PEX piping to address
Yes, that's what I
still
mean.
look into it? Did you want to put a motion on the floor for a report back?
Yeah, motion to report back. You talking to me? I'm still on here.
Yeah, it's still on. Did you want to put a motion on the floor to have a report?
Yes, please.
Okay, can you make the motion?
Yeah. Motion to report back on the type of pipe they're going to use in that rec center.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Noxana, discussion? Councillor Hoffman?
What's the aquatic center here? Is it in the aquatic center itself? Do you know, if you do know where in the aquatic center, I wouldn't mind knowing that.
Ms. Dorval?
I will defer to Ms. Notley. The location?
Yeah, I don't have the location on that. That came from the Division Community Services.
Okay.
Okay.
Councillor Hoffman, you're good with that? And we'll just wait for the
Yeah,
report?
that's fine. If we knew where it was, I could answer the question now, but that's fine.
Any more discussion? I guess I just want clarity from staff, I guess, if I may. It just says replace copper piping with PEX pipe to address the leaking pipe issue. So is it PEX pipe we're using? And has it been approved? Ms. Dorval?
Thank you, Mayor. And council, I'm not entirely sure what we're using, but I guess we're asking permission possibly, and I'll ask Ms. Notley. She thinks.
Well, there's report, requested council, so in the report, we'll indicate the areas where the piping will be replaced.
I guess my other, okay, I'm going to rephrase this question. In the report in front of me on page 9, it says the piping with PEX pipe. So to me, we've already decided what piping we're using. And if we have we had approval to use that? All I'm trying to do here is prevent a report from going through to spend more staff time. And I don't disagree with Councillor Clickash. He has the experience, so I'm listening to him. But if staff have already gone down that road and whoever they've contacted said this is what we need to use, we can prevent the report going to staff to come back before council. Ms. Dorval.
Thank you, Mayor and council. Ms. Notley, can you expand on that one, please?
Sorry for that, I'll clarify. So the suggestion is that we replace it with copper piping, is not that it has already been replaced. And we do have, we have consulted with the individuals that have suggested that we go to the PEX piping and go away from the copper.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Bear.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. So I tend to agree with you in that if we've already had somebody tell us this is the correct piping to use, then I'm content with that. For us to wait for a report back to fix this issue might just, muddle the issue when we should just be moving forward.
Councilor Clickash. This is where I get schooled.
I think you have to consult the building code on this. Okay? Because I think you'll find that in commercial building, that you're not allowed to use any other pipe than copper or steel.
Okay. Ms. Torval?
I just consulted there with Ms. Notley, and she advised that the suggestion or the recommendation came from the engineering firm that was working at the community center this past summer. So we can look further into it and bring a report back. Council desires.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah.
This mic's on. So just one second. If we are done talking, I've just left the mics open on discussion mode. So when you're done talking, if you can shut your mics off, then we don't get cut out.
It sounds like we have the report. Can we-
Councillor Hoffman.
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. It sounds like we have the report. Can we just have that forwarded then and done, and on we go?
I think Councillor Clickout just put a different recommendation on the floor. I think they've talked to, the way I understand it from staff, and I don't want to speak for staff, but the firm that was already there, they talked to and they suggested that we use this. Councillor Clickash's concern is we need to make sure that we're doing it by the building code. And of course, I don't have that expertise. That's why I've asked those questions I did to try and prevent a staff report. Councillor Norbury's followed suit there. But I think if there's a concern there, I think we should ask for that report just to make sure that we don't put that in. And maybe it's changed, Councillor Clickash, maybe the code has changed. And that I wouldn't know. I'll be honest, this is when we have a great council, when we have different people on here with different backgrounds. It kind of helps the process. To me, it helps process when we have that experience. Okay, any more debate? We can just have the motion read back, just because we've had a long debate. Ms. Torval?
Thank you.
No problem. If we haven't captured it, it's okay, we can reread it. Oh, you have? Okay.
The motion is to have a report back on the type of pipe that is going, that are going to be used at the rec center. That was.
I'd like to put an amendment out there now. I just think what's going to, no disrespect to anybody, but to me, if I would just bring back the report that's right here in front of me. But I think we need to make sure, if we can just put an amendment, that we confer that it is up to the building code for the piping being used. Seconder on the amendment. Councilor Norbury. Discussion on the amended motion, the amendment. Okay. Call the question. Oh, Mr. Torval.
Sorry, I've just been advised that it isn't the building code, it is the plumbing code, so.
If we can just change the building code word to plumbing, and if Councilor Norbury, you second that, you're okay with that?
Yeah, or just go with codes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for clarity. Okay, call the question on the amendment. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now I'll call the question on the amended motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. I'm going to switch this up a bit. So we just talked about the replacing of copper piping. I'll still control the meetings. Councilor Dussault, you can start on the next line. I'm sorry, my throat's getting sore from talking.
Services, the 25 kilowatt switch, existing switch needs to be replaced. Unit was purchased but doesn't fit. New design plan required.
Any concerns there? Okay, if you don't mind, do the next one, please.
Community services, facilities, the
Hang on
Zamboni.
just one second. Councilor Julik, thanks, Councilor.
Sorry.
I just wondered, like, I don't have a problem buying the switch, but what happened to the other one? Did it go back?
Ms. Torval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll ask Ms. Notley for the explanation on that one, please.
That's a really good question. No, it did not go back. It was purchased, it wasn't built to suit, and it's still sitting at the community center, taking up a lot of space. So we have looked at options to replace, to bring it back, or send it back and get a replacement, but I believe with Mr. Bradley's, some discussions we've had, is that that's not a possibility. So we were looking at getting an actual one that would fit in the unit. The unit only needs to be this big, 2 feet by 2 feet, but the equipment that we received on the floor, it takes up, what would you think it would be, bigger than a refrigerator, a freezer on the floor, so it actually isn't the right size and is not the right function for what we need. And again, that was a legacy that has been there for a few years now. It needs to be addressed.
Councillor Gillick, could you hear that?
Yeah, okay.
Community Services Facilities, Zamboni snow pit cover, replace existing Zamboni snow pit cover due to compromised welds.
Okay, we can go ahead.
Public Works, water, replacement of the water line at the Monkman RV Park, replacement of aging water line that has exceeded life expectancy, was damaged in fall of 2022.
Any concerns from council on that item?
I would ask, like, should we be looking at the rest of the park? Like from what I understood when we talked at budget meeting, it was only for the line that was to the west of the shower house. Do we need to look at the rest of the lines in the park?
Ms. Dorval?
Thank you. I will ask, who is it, Mr. Bradley or Ms. To speak on that one?
As it stands right now, we're just looking at doing the one line. It would all determine or be determined as to how far you guys want to go. We could dig up the whole park looking at the lines. So at this point in time, our thought process was fix what's damaged, and if we have to make a plan down the road, then we can do that.
Councillor Gillick?
Yeah, if we're doing it in-house, it's not a big deal. I just thought if we were bringing somebody in, I didn't realize you'd have to dig up the line to see if it was damaged or not. And if that's the case, then obviously we're just gonna wanna fix the stuff that's there.
Okay, I guess there's no way of doing an assessment on the lines. I think that's what Councillor Jude was kind of wanting, not to speak on, put words in her own mouth, but I think that's kind of where she was heading. Is there a way of doing an assessment on those lines?
Honestly, at this point, don't think that there is a way to do an assessment on that line. It's plastic pipe. So just over 40 years, it's become brittle.
Okay. Councillor Dusso.
Right, Public Works, water, valve replacement at the golf course, replacement of valve cluster, and upgrading water line proactively, damaged fall 2022. Oh, is that the same one? Nope.
Yep. Any concern from council?
Community Services Facilities, glycol for the boiler system, freeze protection for boiler system.
Councillor Huffman?
Just a minor request, when we have items like this, if we can get location and function for that boiler, I'm not gonna deny glycol for a boiler system, but it just for my own knowledge, is this for the hockey rink, is this for some other system, is this for ice melt somewhere? Just some details, please.
Ms. Torval?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Council, I'll ask Ms. Notley to provide that information.
I'll get that information. I don't have it right now.
Because wasn't there some boiler replacement that happened at the community center? 2022? Is that a yes? Yes. Thanks. Good question. Okay. Councillor Dusso.
All right, Protective Services. Development of a community wildlife resiliency plan. A CWRP will be a requirement for any future application for grant funding in 2024. The DTR had previously created a community wildlife prevention plan in 2006.
Any discussion from council? Okay.
Community services facilities, VIC, log chinking, to maintain VIC asset preventative maintenance.
Any discussion from council? Councillor Julie, thank you.
I just wondered, it's in yellow. I know, when I've been in there, you can definitely see where the logs are cracking, which is what you expect. I just wanted to make sure that the powers that be are comfortable with leaving it for another year. Or if maybe Mr. Clickash, Councillor Clickash hadn't a thought on that.
I do not think just because it's yellow, it'll be left until for 2024. It's just where we're going to spend the priority of time. So this is going to be taken over by community services. So they're going to have other things, but one of their high priorities are going to be, you know, I mean, I don't want to speak for staff, but I would think if they need 2 people working on a high priority, it doesn't mean that the next person down the road is not working on the next one, which is medium or low. This is with within our budget for 2023. They've just labeled it so we know where it sits for staff timing and how it's going to work through their budget. If I'm wrong, speak up. Sorry. Natalie. Is that correct?
Just had to find the unmute button. Yes, it's pretty much correct. It also is to help for decision-making for projects. If you were looking at cutting eventually with the budget, if it's ranked in a green area and you wanted to look at cost savings, you could look at those green items later on when the costing comes available. And then decide if you want to proceed at that point. It helps with those decisions as well.
Thank you. I guess my question back to staff would be, and no disrespect, when's the last time it was done? Ms. Torval?
I am not aware of when it was done. It may have been done or may not have been done. Okay, so according to Ms. Notley, it hasn't been done.
Okay, so I guess that's why I asked that question. So there was funds budgeted, and I'm wondering if those excess funds from that budget will be pushed into this budget for that.
Not a hundred.
We don't know yet because we don't have those, Natalie doesn't have those numbers, but I know there was a budgeted amount for that. Again, if that's a surplus budget, I'm hoping that we are moving those budgets so we don't end up taxation again. That's the only reason I keep asking those questions, because I know it was previously there, and it wasn't just the Vic Center, it was also the front of the community center was supposed to be done as well. So I know I don't see it on there, but I'm wondering if we're supposed to put a line there that says the logging at the Vic Center as well as the community center. I'm going to pass on to Councillor Hoffman if you can just take over from that line.
Log chinking, sure. Community service facilities, new dehumidifier for the arena and curling rink to replace 4 original units.
Okay, any discussion in regards to that? I guess I have a question. I'm just wondering how old they are. And the reason I asked that question is I know there were some new ones installed, and I'm just not sure in what areas. But I know previously there were some installed. Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll ask Ms. Notley, are you aware of the age of those units? Okay, so Ms. Notley has responded that they are original, they have never been replaced.
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't mind continuing on, Councillor Hoffman.
Electronic marquee, sign replacement at community center. Current sign purchased in 2020, clarity and functionality requires replacement. I think we had this discussion already.
Councillor Julik.
I was hoping we could just say we didn't want a sign and we need an option to get rid of it. And how do we do that?
Yeah, I think we can have a discussion about, I know this had come up previously at our workshop when it came forward. I don't know what the first budgeted amount was when they first put the sign up there, but I mean, we got to understand there's other, besides just the sign that is there, there's a pillar and stuff that has been budgeted for and to me is not being replaced. So I guess with not having a budgeted amount here, I think we could highlight it, Councillor Julik, if you're comfortable with that, until we can get until we see a cost on it and then debate. If that would be okay with you, and if not, I mean, I'm fine with you putting a motion on the floor to move it to low and not, and then wait till we see the number and make a decision, or just leave it at where it is, and then when we see a cost, then we can debate that.
I'm happy to make a motion that the sign just be removed and a report brought back on what the cost would be to remove it and structure, if there's any costs to remove it because of any structural issues.
Okay, can we get a seconder on the recommendation? Councillor Dussault. Okay, up for discussion. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I'm not in favor of, at this moment of time, scrapping the marquee sign replacement. I would prefer to see a cost associated with replacement before we talk about removing it. I do see the value in that sign, and I think we should at least see what it costs to replace. I'm not against having costs to remove it as well in the report coming back, but at this point in time, I'd like to continue down the road of replacement.
Councillor Hoffman.
Oh, it's just on for reading.
No problem. I thought that, but I didn't want to miss you. And I kind of agree, Councillor Norbury. I think I'd prefer to leave it on, see what the cost is for replacement, and then make a decision and debate it. And I'm not sure if I'm in favor of looking at a cost to what it would cost us to remove it at the same time. I just want to see what it costs for the replacement part of it first, and then that way it gives council discussion if we want to spend that much money. Any more discussion in regards to the motion that's on the floor? Councillor Knoxena.
I see the value in looking up the cost of replacing it and removing it. Because if there's a huge difference, great, we make that decision. If they're really close, then we decide, are we going with a new sign? Because it's gonna cost the same amount as removing the old one.
Someone can make an amendment. Because
No, I agree, that's not what's on the floor.
Just to speak to that, maybe, Mayor.
Councilor Norbury, go ahead.
If the purpose to get information back on the cost of removing is just a tool to say, hey, this is why it's a great idea to replace it, maybe we're just wasting our time looking for that cost. Because honestly, that's where I'm at. Like, the only reason why I'd want to know how much it costs to remove it is to show, like, for an extra X amount of dollars, we can just replace it. So I think I'm fine. I'd like to see stay there, so I'm not in favor of the motion.
Thank you for that, because I was going to speak to the same thing you just said. If that's a bargaining tool of if we remove it or keep it, I think we got to make that decision. And to me, these are hard decisions. When we get into budget, this is a pretty light and easy budget discussion tonight. When we see numbers there, and then we have to have those debates, it's a tough job. So to me, I'm more in favor of getting a cost while we're in budget discussion first, and then looking at the removal part. So, any more discussion in regards to the motion? Okay, if we can just read back the motion, please, just so we're clear. Ms. Dorval?
I had the first part of that, so if Councillor Julick could read that back to us slowly, that would be much appreciated. I have the sign to be removed. I didn't miss the first part of that.
Councillor Julick, could you just reread your motion, please?
We get, I make a motion that the sign just be removed and that we have a price in regards to if there's any structural, sorry, let me back that up. Make a motion to remove the sign and to make sure there's no structural issues, and if there is a cost to that.
Do not be sorry. If you're missing something, Ms. Dorval, if we could just get a mic to her so that she can ask Councillor Julick.
Councillor Julick, can you just say the last part, please?
She just needs the last part, Councillor Julick.
The structural?
If there's a cost incurred, if there is, sorry, I didn't write it down and I should have wrote it down. If there's structural issues in removing the sign, have a cost associated with that reported back.
Okay, I got that.
If we could just have the whole motion read back out, please.
The motion is to have the sign removed and that we, I've got this seconded. I've got this.
It was seconded by Councillor Dusso.
Removing the signs and the costs associated, if there is a cost, if we have a price in there, any costs associated should be removed from the budget. Sorry.
Thank you.
Too fast.
Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? Motion defeated. Any more discussion in regards to that? Councillor Hoffman.
Community services facilities, community center building front roof, find solution for ice buildup and falling snow.
Discussion. Councillor Clickash.
There are a lot of solutions for the snow problem there. One is a heated walkway, another one is ice. There's actually a electric ice remover that can be put up there that's the same color as the roof and everything else. And that would cause the water to drain. So, but the only problem is if the water's draining off the roof, it's going down on the sidewalk. So when we replace the sidewalk, which we're thinking of doing someday, we could put heat in the sidewalk and melt the ice in the sidewalk.
All the way to a drain?
Thank you.
Pardon me?
All the way to a drain?
Yep, there's a drain right there.
Oh, there is, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Clickash. I guess my comment or question or concern was, what was the budget last year that was spent at the community center for the roof for falling snow and ice? Do we have the number?
Sorry, I don't have any numbers. I don't know if Natalie has any numbers. No.
If we just have that number when it comes back, I don't want to say it, just throw it out there, but I think it was $25,000. Like, if that's what we actually spent last year and we're back again asking, we need to make sure, Councillor Clickash, thank you for your comments. To me, I'm not sure what we're looking for, and I'll wait for the budget to come forward with a number there, but to me, I hope it's for a report. It is to get the proper information so that we can stop spending money on that roof in regards to falling snow and ice, and we can get the problem fixed. And I like Councillor Clickash's comments in regards to the sidewalk, and it's brought up, and I was trying to find it in the other budget lines here. Maybe we can add those two items together when we talk about the Front Street sidewalk. Because I know there was discussion back then about a heated sidewalk to prevent all this. And maybe that report needs to include that if this is a wish of council. But to me, we need to find the fix and just stop spending a bit of money here and there to try and curve the problem from the roof. It's not just the roof. Councillor Clickash mentioned how it drips down the wall and onto the sidewalk. That's the problem. So to me, I just want to see a complete fix. We can keep throwing money at it, and it's not going anywhere. Councillor Nober.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Like, you know, we're talking a lot of like really great ideas and solutions, but maybe the solution is just to, you know, get that roof slick so the snow doesn't stick there and we get somebody out to shovel it. You know, because we're talking about heated roof, heated sidewalk. Maybe we just look at, you know, getting people out there to shovel more often. I don't know. Like maybe I'm thinking this is too simple, but we're talking about a major solution for a simple problem.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And I've watched them do the snow raking on that roof all winter. I'm not sure about this year, but I watched it last year. And to me, we just need to find out the problem, fix the problem completely. So I guess back to Mr. Orville, it just says find a solution for ice buildup and falling snow. Are we looking at putting a budget amount there for a report? Or are we just going to start throwing darts at the board and hope we hit the right one?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll ask Mr. Bradley to speak to that.
I did take a look at the building there. With a tin roof, we're going to have continuous issues there. Potential eaves will change the whole look of the front of the building. The issue is the ice buildup on the walkways. As Mr. Norbury said, potentially having to get out there a little bit more frequent instead of just throwing salt and gravel on the sidewalk. There are potentially a few different tools that we could to get to help assist with getting rid of the buildup. But that's where we're at right now.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion? Councillor Hoffman.
Community Services, Golf Course, a Gator, Golf Course, John Deere, Alan Prideaux, a quote for 17,000 and change. Replace the Gator at the golf course, old damaged unit. Jason to look into trading in a unit, and I'm putting my hand up for this one.
Councillor Hoffman.
I don't know if it's subject, the Gator is subject to the same thing. I'm starting to develop an issue with John Deere. They're moving to a pay-for-service model for their vehicles, and I realize it's at the larger end right now. I would appreciate a quote from at least another brand as well. And if I'm just wrong and there's not going to happen, then by all means, I'm willing to listen to that. But that's what I have to say on that.
Yeah, I'll go back to staff, but we have a purchasing policy that staff has to follow. But Ms. Torval, so you'd get, they would do that. Okay.
Thank you. I'll ask Mayor and Council. I'll have Mr. Bradley speak to that.
Okay, the reason why we're sticking with John Deere is because we currently have a 7200A lawnmower that doesn't quite meet our needs with the district. We have an opportunity to potentially trade it off on a couple of different units, which will repurpose what we have, which hopefully would get rid of this cost altogether for us.
Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Julik.
I had some questions along the same way, but it sounds like Mr. Bradley's on it and has a viable option there for us. So I'm good to let him have at her.
Okay. Before we continue on, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. Okay. Sorry, my Back to order. And we're going to be on page 10. Golf course building roof snow break, new eaves with screen priority in brackets. Any discussion there? Okay. Fire prevention / inspection vehicle. Any discussion there? Councillor Hoffman?
Is this a smaller truck that we were talking about before?
This is the same one that was up in our strategic planning.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Okay. Fitness center accessibility access. Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I'm in support of this. My only comment would be to accessibility to the upper area of the gym. In previous discussions, I think Mayor Kakalka, you were involved in them as well. One of the concerns is that the upper area is not accessible. We did sort of have a discussion, like maybe they can go through the Children's Center Society. If that was the case, they would, would need to add these improvements there, or we look at some sort of lift option in the middle. Yeah.
Just from staff side, is there a report going to come back once this goes through budget on what the plan is to make it accessible? Okay. Okay, golf course irrigation supplies. A new dehumidifier for the pool, have fixed several times. Councillor Clickash?
This dehumidifier in the pool is really important. It didn't run for about 20 years, and then we had it all rebuilt at one point. And the thing is, unless we have that dehumidification, you're going to start rotting out your ceilings and everything else as it's wood in the pool area. So it's really important. I think that should be done as soon as possible. It requires engineering as well.
Councillor Noxama?
I was just gonna ask, we have dehumidifiers in the curling rink, was it as well? So are these the ones that have been replaced? Because we've been told there was ones replaced in the rec center already.
I thought there was. I remember something, but
Just if they
it
were-
says right in here, it's the
If they're
original.
Faulty, then we should look into why, like if they're replaced and faulty, look into why. But if they're not and they haven't been replaced, then we should probably I would agree, get on this and get them replaced, because that's a high humid.
Okay. Museum furnace. So I guess my question about staff would be, I know there's like 6 or 7 furnaces in the one room. Are we replacing all of them or one of the 6?
Sorry. My understanding, it is one of the 6, but I'll just confirm with Ms. Notley. Yes, one of the 6.
Okay. Broadband. Residential development. Councillor Julik.
I'm just interested in what this really entails. Like, I guess at this point, I'm not interested in the district doing any kind of out-of-pocket expenses for development. But if it's just investigating something, I guess I just need more information, and maybe that'll just come back with the budget stuff.
Just clarity from staff? That's correct. Leg press. So I guess, go ahead, Councillor Julik.
I wonder why it's not gone. Like, if it's damaged, I'm concerned that it's still in there.
Ms. Torval.
Thank you. Ms. Notley?
The current leg press is not damaged, it's just it doesn't meet the weight capacity of a small cohort of individuals who use the gym, so it isn't damaged, it needs to be replaced that way. It just needs to be replaced for an individual who need to, for higher weight capacity.
I'm sorry, I missed most of what was said. I apologize.
I'm sorry for that. So it isn't damage that needs to be replaced. It is the request of patrons who want a higher weight capacity on the machine. So it would be for a small cohort of patrons who utilize the leg press who would, and that's why we'll be looking at replacing it for, so everybody can have access, so access for all, basically.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Julik?
On the sheet, it says a safety concern.
Thank you. I was about to read that out. That it says safety concern with current leg press, safety hooks, and weight capacity. I understand the weight capacity if we're looking for something that's more weight, but when it says concern with current leg press and safety hooks, I think that's where Councillor Julik, I can't put words in her mouth, but I mean, when you see safety, and then we have a little bit explanation there, if there's a safety concern, why would it still be within our gym?
Well, consider this as Mr. Bradley's request. I'll let him speak to it.
Okay, there's excessive wear on the machine itself. It still functions properly at this point in time. The original life expectancy of this piece of equipment was 5 years. It was purchased in 1998. We far exceeded the life expectancy of this piece of equipment, and technology in gym equipment has changed over time.
Okay. Councillor Julik, that answers your comment? Okay. Good. Fairgrounds, electrical, building repairs and maintenance. Okay. Golf course, replace hot water tank if continues to be problematic. Carryover, okay. So this is put in the budget because there's possibly problems with it? Ms. Torval?
Yes, sorry.
Don't be sorry.
Thank you. Mayor and council, I'll ask Ms. Notley to speak to the hot water tank at the golf course. Notley?
I think the wording on this is inaccurate. It is problematic, and it continues to be problematic, and so we're requesting replacement to correct it.
Okay. Thank you for that. Aquatics Center main pool pump. Do you need a recommendation here when, because to me, it's like we're asking to refurbish the old one or buy a new one. I mean, to me, it's buy a new one. But does staff need a recommendation for that, or like, you know, I might, I don't know how council feels, but to me, when we see two numbers put in front of us, to me, it just makes more sense that we're not refurbishing stuff. We talked about how we've rebuilt the dehumidifier earlier in the swimming pool, and we've had issues with it. Do you need a motion?
Yes, we'd like a motion, please.
Sorry?
Councillor Noxana,
I'm gonna motion that we replace the pump in the pool
with a new one?
with a new one. We don't refurbish.
Seconder, Councillor Nober. Discussion. Okay, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Golf course irrigation system for driving range. Is there more information on this? I know what it says in the report. There'd be more information coming forward from an employee. Mr. Orwell?
There will be more information coming forward.
Okay. And the reason I asked, I mean, obviously I want to see what the monetary amount is budgeted to water grass for a driving range. So to me, it just becomes more labor. If we're going to irrigate it, we're cutting it more when it's a driving range. I'd be curious to see in the report how many driving ranges are irrigated. So.
I'd also like to know how much usage, if we're getting a report on that, I'd like to know how much use the driving range gets and what the revenue has been on that.
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Jilek. I guess my other comment would be, I'm not sure when this is coming back before us, Ms. Dorval, would be we also put our outdoor ice rink on the outside on the driving range, is my understanding, and maybe I'm wrong, I haven't been down there this year, so my apologies to staff that have built it. But if it's there and we have an irrigation system, that is a big concern. If you put irrigation and then put a rink on top. So I think that just needs to be something council's aware of. Is that not where our rink is right now? It is? Okay. Yeah, like I said, my apologies, I didn't make it down there. So I guess we'll wait for the information to come forward. Thank you. Strategy investment. Councillor Hoffman, sorry.
Just for clarification, is this the same idea as a line item for multi-purposes like the previous question?
Ms. Dorval?
Ms. Finnegan? I believe it is.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The investment strategy that we have currently is outdated and ran out the year before COVID. So the intention, in order to future-proof our economic development in town, we would need a new investment strategy that would look at where our housing, where our broadband, where our economic diversification is going to come from. So getting another or a new investment strategy set up would be the intention. 9 times out of 10 we can get it funded, but I have put it in there as a line item to bring important intention to it.
Okay, so just for clarification, this is to produce a new investment strategy. It's a report, essentially.
Ms. Dorval?
Thank you.
Okay. RV park, building locks, plant trees, beautify area, and provide shade. And this, I'm assuming we're talking about Monkman RV Park. Okay. Councillor Jilek.
I have no problems with the locks, other than to find out why, like if they're not working or if it's just a convenience thing. I know they're not a lot of fun to program. So far as the trees and stuff, because I was the caretaker out there, that's all gravel. Trees aren't going in those sites. Like there's no room the way it is. We'd have to, in my opinion, after being on the ground out there, there's no room to put trees unless you get rid of some sites. I can't see that the trees would grow there because it's rock. And then you have the added cost of mowing and stuff around there. Like I think if you wanted to add trees over in the green area, that would be fine. But I also think that there's probably enough there now. So I guess I'm okay with the locks if they're not working. But if they're working, I'd like to have some feedback on to why that would want to be changed. But other than that, I think the locks are all that are needed on that.
Ms. Dorval.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll ask, who's looking after that one? Ms. Utley? Were you looking after that one, or was it Mr. Bradley? Mr. Bradley? Speak further to the...
Not certain if it's building locks or if it was for building blocks. Like, I don't know what the project is there, to be perfectly honest, at this point in time. Trees, we can look into through operational cost.
Councillor Nobury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I think I'd like to see a little more information on this. I mean, if what Councillor Julik is saying is correct, and I believe in what Councillor Julik is saying, if we add trees in there, we may be losing out on functionality, space. So I'd like to know a little more information on what this project is, and it seems like maybe staff isn't 100% sure either. So, you know, let's pump the brakes on this one and defer until we get a report.
That or we put a motion on the floor to provide a report. That way, hopefully, it will make it within our budget timeframe. And the only reason I said I'm not a big fan of the unbudgeted funds. I know we've done in the past, but to me, it's obviously something that's come forward for a reason. The only concern I have too is when we see these on here and it says community services, I'm assuming that if it's been moved to a public department, maybe we should be saying we should say that so we know. Just helps. If you don't mind, but yeah, Councilor Bear.
Thank you. All motion, unless I'm stepping on Councilor Julik's toes. Nope. All motion to request a report on the RV park project, RE, building locks, and trees.
Seconder? Counselor Julik? Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. My apologies before calling the question. Did staff get the motion? Thank you.
I tried to be slow and concise.
Thanks, Councilor Norbury. Wireless AV for EOC. Any discussion? Okay. Baseball diamonds, dig up, and new infield mix. Councillor Noxana.
I would just like to know how much use they get, like what the cost is to us is coming back. I get that, but how much do they get used? And are we looking at all the baseball diamonds? One?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Ms. Doral, is this for all the ball diamonds? I believe there's 3 out there, or is there 2? I think there's 3.
Mr. Bradley will respond to that.
Yes, this project's been brought up to me. It would be for all the ball diamonds. But at this point in time, I'll have to research as to where to get the product.
Okay. And then, do we know the usage of the ball diamonds? That was the other question from Councilor Noxana.
I don't have that information at the moment right here, but we could definitely bring it back for the next meeting. If we did bring this up.
Councilor Julik?
Yeah, sorry, thanks, Mayor Koka. One of the questions I would have is, like, it wasn't that long ago, I want to say 16, so I guess 6 years might be a while, but, like, what is the need for it? Are the balls bouncing too hard? Is the grass not growing? So I guess I would, when you come back, if you could give us a reason as to why it needs to be done.
Okay. I guess my other question would be if, and maybe we don't have an answer, but was this brought forward by the users that are using the ball diamonds, or is this something that staff had seen and have brought forward? I don't know if it was in 2022 or 2021 that we bought a new rake for out there. I'm not sure if that's the wording for it, but I know that was purchased by the district. So I'd be just curious if it's the people using it. I know they do have slow pitch teams in Tumbler, but.
Thank you. With regard to the new, the rake, I think it's called a drag.
Yep.
A drag. That has been ordered, but we don't have it yet. It's still on back order.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then do we know in regard?
It is
Oh, I'm sorry.
staff initiative.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay. Outdoor pickleball courts, volleyball court area? Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. So I'm in favor of rejuvenating that area out there. I'd like to see more use. My only comments would be maybe we could be looking at a larger project here on how we can revitalize that whole area and see if we can try and make it a multi-use thing. My only comments are, reading this, it looks like we're just going to take out a volleyball court. We're going to take out something to add in a pickleball court, which may or may not have long-term impact. So I like a long-term sustainability or survivability. So I'd like to see like a multi-use court. So I'm just hoping, I'd just like to see that expanded a little more and we can look at options. I'd be happy to make that recommendation if that's required.
Yeah, I think we're going to go that in 1 second. Councilor Hoffman.
I don't disagree. I don't read it that way. Like many indoor courts, I think you can make multi-use things. The nets get adjusted, the lines are set and that sort of thing. It's really one court that could be used by multiple things, but that's not being specified here. But conceptually, no, I'm in agreement.
Councilor Julik.
Forgive me, I don't think it's later down, but I know we talked about whether or not those courts inside were getting used. And so maybe bringing that into a thought process as well while we're doing this, because I think the tennis courts get used to a certain, I don't know how much, but then the volleyball courts, I know they've talked about basketball courts, the kids seem to enjoy. But if we're not using the racquetball squash courts, maybe we could look at that instead or have that in part of the report that Councillor Norbury is requesting.
Okay. Councilor Norbury.
I'm just
A
writing.
few minutes, okay,
writing
no
some
problem, we
down.
can take a few minutes. I agree that, to me, and I see it in here, staff has already made a notation, a quote requires an RFP for a new build selected, so, you know, I think they're looking outside too, but I think we need to make sure when we're adding stuff or we're gonna use existing stuff and try something new there, that we're actually making sure that we're doing the right thing going forward, that we're not doing something by taking out the volleyball court and putting in pickleball, but then we actually hurt the people that were using it as volleyball. Sure, there might be a select few that use it, but then again, and those people are gonna come before council saying, where's our volleyball court? So that is my only concern when we start trying to keep up with the times. Pickleball's the new upkeep right now. I mean, it's a big hit. I know in the community, even in the community of Tumble Ridge, you hear everybody talk about pickleball. I haven't done it, but you good?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Norbury.
I'll make a motion that the expand pickle court ideas to include revitalization of outdoor areas, RE, tennis and volleyball areas, to include pickleball and other outdoor sports such as basketball. Uh-oh, I went too fast. Where did I lose you guys?
Ms. Torval?
So we've got that we have a report that we expand the pickleball area to expand and explore other, that's where I left off.
Okay, let me start over. Sorry. To expand the pickleball court idea to include revitalization of outdoor areas, RE, tennis and volleyball areas, to include other outdoor sports.
Got it? Before we get a seconder on that, I know Councilor Julik, you'd mentioned in regards to the indoor racquetball courts and stuff.
If we could add, if I could amend the motion to say, and further to investigate options that would include modifying racquetball and squash courts, the indoor racquetball and squash court.
Can we keep those separate? Have separate motions for those? They're just completely different to my mind. The racquetball squash courts are indoor courts, and we're talking about revitalizing outside.
The reason for that, Councillor Hoffman, is I was just thinking like, so instead of looking at the outdoor pickle court, maybe the pickle courts could be indoor, pickleball courts could be indoor. That's the only reason.
Okay. There is an indoor court, I think it's room 5, and they also play at the high school as well. So as far as indoor pickleball courts, I think they're covered. But if nobody's playing racquetball or squash, that's a nice indoor space that could be turned into something. So that's why I was suggesting splitting, but I'll defer if we don't want to split them.
I think by adding them together, it gets a whole report back about it. Like all of it, like it's all together, we can make, you know, we can see it all from staff side that what the usage is on the inside. You know, we talked about indoor soccer pitches and stuff like that. Then we can have a look at the whole thing and see what kind of money, is my opinion, but if Council Norbury is fine, we haven't seconded it. You're good with that? Okay, so now I'll look for a seconder on the motion. Councilor Dussault. Any discussion on the motion that's on the floor? Okay, good. Can we have staff just read it back, please? Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor.
That council requests a report to expand the pickleball idea to include revitalization of outdoor areas, tennis and volleyball areas to include other outdoor sports, and further to investigate options modifying the indoor racquetball and squash courts.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. ACDEV, transportation. Any discussion? Facility storage for the community center. Any discussion? Councillor Naxano.
It has a CCAN on here, and I think that we've discussed before CCANs in other areas and how we didn't particularly want them around town for storage. So, I mean, we can look at a cost either way, but maybe we should look at keeping our CCANs in the 1 yard.
Yeah, and I think that'll come back to us, or I hope it comes back to us. I mean, I think we need to have a selection there, but we also need to, when it talks about it and stuff like that in regards to storage, I mean, I understand the community center needs it for tables and chairs and stuff like that, but I'd be curious to see how well our Quonset's being used out by the ball diamonds. I've actually been in there, and there's probably stuff in there that doesn't belong in there anymore and such, and I think that something, once I see a number beside there, might be put a motion on the floor that staff actually has a look at stuff that we no longer use within the community of Tumble Ridge and just get rid of it. There's some stuff in that building. I've seen it during the pumpkin patch. So I get that. And they have a building to the side that, you know, I'm not sure where they're storing the second Zamboni or third Zamboni or whatever many Zambonis we have now in Tumble Ridge since we've purchased the electric. But I think it needs to be looked at before we just start building more and more storage, because again, it's the upkeep. It's the upkeep, so. But I do believe that'll come back, Ms. Dorval. We'll hear more information on that.
Yes, more information will be provided, yes.
Okay, free weights at the fitness center. Okay. Golf course project, enhance the lookout, install, I'm pretty sure that's install looking glass and a gazebo. Discussion, can somebody, if staff could tell me what looking glass is gonna be?
Ms. Notley?
Binoculars, maybe?
Explain.
Yeah, not look out glass, perhaps?
Like a telescope.
Okay. So it's just worded wrong in our documentation. Okay, thank you. So binoculars. Okay. Any discussion? So I guess my comments or questions back to staff or even council is when we talk about this, and obviously staff's brought this forward, my hope is to see the plan. So that we're not just adding the budget line here, that we actually see, obviously, I'm sure it's staff that came up with an idea or a thought around the desk or around the coffee room, but if we just can see what they're talking about and make sure that we talk to Northern Mountain Society and people like that to make sure that we are not hindering what they see in their vision as down there as well, just to make sure that we're using those other groups, the geopark and stuff like that, that we're actually talking with everybody to make sure that's we want to see it, that look up. Cause I think it's a phenomenal place, but it's a well-known place in Tumble Ridge. Anybody that comes up here, you ask them, have you been to the Lookout? That was the first question I got asked when I bought the store, so. Coat of arms. Any discussion? Chairs for council chambers. Guess my only ask would be, what chairs are we talking about? If we're talking, are we talking about council chairs like up here? Okay, that's my question. Is it?
It's going to be for the boardroom and for these chairs that we're sitting on here.
Okay.
They're old.
Nope, I don't have an issue. I just, when I seen it, I just wanted to make sure, like, I believe our chairs up here are fairly new, so just wanted to make sure we weren't replacing them. Okay, replacement of unit 926, the 2007 Toyota Tacoma with a 2023 Ford Ranger. And I know I've asked this question, but if there's any other discussion, I asked this question at our strategic planning meeting, but why are we not looking at a normal pickup, F-150s? Because there was a good explanation from staff, so I think it should be public. Ms. Torval?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll ask Mr. Bradley to speak to that.
Okay, the reason why I was looking at a Ford Ranger opposed to an F-150 is where water utilities needs to go with their pickup. This is better suited for those needs. Also, there's a $20,000 price difference between a Ford Ranger and an F-150.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion? Okay. Landscaping and signage near loading ramp. This is at the golf course. Discussion? Okay, I'm going to ask the same question. Landscaping and signage near the loading ramp, where? Mr. Orville? I know it's at the golf course, but that was my concern previously of where we're talking about in regards to a loading ramp.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll ask Ms. Notley or Mr. Bradley. Yep.
This project was to be developed by the loading ramp for carts. We have all of the materials in-house. So it would be taken care of with our operational budget.
Yeah, and I don't see a concern with that, but when we have it come forward on a budget, first it came as a special capital project, and now it says operating. So that's my concern is we asked about where it was at our strategic planning, or I did, and now it's been moved to an operating budget. So to me, I'm not sure what council feels like. I'd like to see your plans. And the reason I ask that is the usage of that ramp sometimes is fairly busy. Are we looking at doing a double ramp? What's the plans there? And to me, I guess, again, I'd like to make sure that we're talking to the right individuals that are using the ramp to make sure we have it in the right location for backing into. I know that's been concerns down there, but I appreciate at least knowing that what we're talking in regards to where it's at. Any more discussion from council? Okay. Rolling glass wall, Playcon, movable back wall to convert a racquetball court to a squash court, open second court for training area. Councilor Julik, I think this goes into your topic that you've added to that report. So I think we just wait for that report to come back unless council has something else to make comments on. And I guess just clarity back to from staff that the report that we requested earlier, we did add the racquetball court and squash courts in regards to that, so that'll be included in that report before something like this was to take place. Okay. Okay. Willow Hall, 2021 carryover request, covered storage area, sound system, clear trees for parking area, vacuum system, new flooring, and removal of stage. Any discussion? Councillor Clickash.
Yes, that stage has always been an issue. In some groups want it removed, the other ones don't. So I think you have to talk to everybody. And I think the Masons look after that building, so maybe they should look into it and bring back a report.
Yep. So I guess back to staff, I apologize, keep going to staff, but have we contacted Light of the Rockies? I know this came up previously in our strategic planning, that it seemed like it was one group has asked for all this. Have we reached out to find out any clarity in regards to these requests?
I'll ask Ms. Notley.
I could speak to them, so I apologize that these are still on this list. It was meant to be removed because we have reached out to Willow Hall, but we have not confirmed that that's the information we received is one group or two groups want it removed, others doesn't. And with regard to the previous line item, we thought that was removed as well from this chart because the rolling wall cannot happen because it has to be installed at construction. It cannot be done after because it needs to be 100% square. And so we actually thought we had removed this from the list, so I apologize for that.
So the top two can be removed off these sheets? Is that what we're saying, Mr. Earl? Okay. Okay. Okay, mural on cart shed building. Discussion. I'm assuming this is the side facing the restaurant side. Guessing, Mr. Orwell? Just make sure. Well, sorry, I didn't think so. So the only concern I'd have about a mural going on it, on the storage cart building there is, one, make sure it'll hold it on there in regards to the material that's been put on. But I know there's been talking about an expansion, and it's been talked about year after year after year. Are we for sure not going to look at whether this council wants to get a report back to find out a cost to add on to that building? So at this point, I believe staff could answer it, but I believe right now the storage cart, golf cart storage is at maxed. There's a waiting list. At this point, in regards to our, I forget the report. Can't remember the policy we have, but for the fees and service policy, right now they pay one rate for the whole year. Can't remember the amount for the golf cart storage. But they get to leave their cart in there all year long. It's a heated facility, and there's power in that facility all winter. So anybody that has an electric cart gets to have their cart plugged in all year for one price, and it's heated. So that should be something that this council decides or discusses about that. My thoughts is we should probably have two different costs down there. If I can store my cart indoors, heated, plugged in for one set price compared to outlining areas. And I've heard it from people that use the golf course storage building as well. They were, like some of them, I'm not saying I've talked to them all, but there's some that they're willing to pay a bit more for that winter storage concept. I don't know what that building costs to build, but I know myself, I think when we see so many people on a waiting list, and I'm not sure if staff has a number tonight, but maybe it's time to look at whether we add on to that building or build another building further down. I know there was concerns on where that building was first built, and there was always talk about maybe looking at building one further. I'm not sure what council thinks. Again, there's an expense. It's a budgeted item. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I'll be honest, I don't use the golf course. I know it's great. I'm just a horrible golfer, and I've accepted that. But if this is your suggestion that we look at, new shed options down there, then, it makes sense not to throw good money at bad if we're going to get rid of it. So why would we put a mural up there? So I would be in favor of postponing this or replacing it with a report on new shed options. If that's what you're looking for feedback, there it is.
Mr. Orwell, would we have the number of people on the waiting list handy tonight?
I don't believe we do. No, we don't have that handy tonight.
Okay. Councillor Knoxana.
So can I make a motion that we get a report back about the golf cart storage shed? How many people are using it? How many would like to use it? Where we could put a new shed? What our pricing schedule is?
Yep.
An overview.
Like an overview or something like that?
Yeah, an overview.
Councillor Quickcash?
In the past, the problem with building it anywhere else, that's why it was built in that one area, was because you could service it with gas and electricity.
Gotcha.
You move it down anywhere else, it's going to create a big problem for servicing. So unless you want an unheated building or something like that, for storage, that can work out. But in the past, I know it was a problem, and that's why it was put right where it is.
Okay, good information. And I apologize if it was a motion, but get me later. But definitely you can put a motion out there. I just think we need to make sure it's worded right so we give the right direction so that we don't go back because we didn't get the right information. And, and that's the thing is off the fly motions. I mean, we'll have time. It's a low item in regards to the mural anyways. Doesn't mean it's not in the 2023 budget, I get it. But I think we have time to kind of fancy up a motion to make sure we get the right information. And, one, is there enough room to do an add-on to that building? It might be fairly tight the way it's located. So just to get clarity, and my understanding there's another building further down past the driving range. I understand it's not public, it's staff building. I'm assuming there's gas and power there.
No, that's, well, there's power there.
No gas?
It's got electric heat in it. And there's no gas down there. Whether that's going to be an issue in the future or not,
Okay.
gas or electric, you know, so. But there's not much room around there to actually put a building because there's a lot of crown land there in that area. And I think we just about built that place out.
Okay.
So, anyway.
Okay, I think we can, I mean, unless you want to, if you can think of one to put on the floor, we can always try to do it for the next budget meeting. I just don't, I know I got a whole bunch of thoughts in my head on making sure we give clear direction, because, you know, talking with council, between council and stuff, I know staff picks up some of it, but then when you put a motion on the floor, you figure out the three key things you wanted the report to have come in. I just want to make sure we get it right, and like I said, I don't store a cart down there, but I just know the amount of people that come to me, and the costs that we've seen previous were like, no, it's not worth it. But, you know, when I listen to Councillor Clickash, like the building down there does further down, only has power. Well, maybe we don't want it heated in the wintertime. We just want it there for people in the summertime, and they vacate it in the winter. So I think we can try to figure out a motion for the next meeting. Paving. Good. Any discussion? Sorry, I just had to read the notes. All right, anything else from council? Okay. Not to do a one-off, a motion on the fly, but I'm going to put a motion on the floor. The council directs staff to have funds in the 2023 budget to go to the UBCM as a trade show, and have funds in the 2024 budget pre-approved to go to the FCM trade show. If I can get a seconder. Councillor Noberry? Discussion. So I'll just start at, the reason I put that on the floor previous to COVID, we did unbudgeted funds, and I'm not a big fan of the unbudgeted funds, but I know it was approved by council. We did send a group from town for the trade show at the UBCM. And I attended the UBCM, I went to the trade show, and in my opinion, our booth was the most active booth in all of the UBCM. We heard it from other municipal councillors and mayors, other government officials, just on how well the booth was set up and how it was received from the people there at the UBCM. We were supposed to go to the FCM the following year, and then that's when COVID hit. So we weren't able to attend it. So I think we're missing out. And when we talk about tourism, this is another way to me is when we get out there, we get out there to our other communities. They see what we have in Tumble Ridge, and they come up here. But also so do our government officials. So I think it's a benefit for us to enter those. And then I'm going to make an amendment, and I'll go to Council Noberry. I'm going to make an amendment. The staff reports back after going to the FCM in 2024. If I can get a seconder on the amendment. Councilor Noberry. Okay, discussion on the amendment. Okay, all in favor on the amendment? Opposed? Carried. Discussion on the amended motion. Councilor Noberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I'll just add to, to what you're saying there, in that it was definitely the most attended part of the booth. It's a great way for our staff to also network with other communities and organizations, how we can further our objectives and plans. Because, as a counselor, I know I'm going out there, I'm going to all the little booths and we're chatting, but only so much information gets carried on, and we're carrying them over to staff anyway. So it'd be valuable for them to be there to create those networking connections, because there's other communities that are farther down this path than we are, and we can learn a lot from them. And having firsthand experience staff to them versus, our, chicken scratch medium, I fully support it.
Councillor Clickash.
Oh, I don't know,
Oh, sorry. I wasn't shutting mics off. It was just a discussion. Okay. Any more discussion? Councillor Julik.
I would just want to make sure that we checked with Ms. Finnegan and make sure that it doesn't impact any planning that she already has ahead. I know that staffing can be an issue getting out to there. Beyond that, I don't have any concerns. I agree. Anytime you can get your name out there and yeah, but I just wouldn't want it to interfere with any of the EDO's plans.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So I'll be honest, I actually talked with Ms. Torval. I believe it, I thought in my own head that this was a running motion from the previous time I put it on the floor. And then I realized, talking to Ms. Finnegan, we had a timestamp on it in regards to the FCM and then having a report come back to council to see if it was feasible to do it every second year. So one year it would be, so the even year would be in the UBCM, the odd year at FCM, and have it continue. But we wanted the report back, and because of COVID, we didn't get it, so the timestamp was gone. So I said I would be bringing it forward, just because I didn't get to do it at the strategic planning. So she's aware. Okay, and I call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything from staff side? I know we went through the budget and everything else, and just want to make sure that we have Natalie on Zoom, that we didn't miss something with the first budget meeting.
If you could maybe wrap this up or speak to it. If we've missed anything, let us know.
No, I'm going to take the information. I've made a whole bunch of notes off that to follow back on. Then it'll come back for the next deliberations, picking and choosing projects. The only thing that will be coming out of this is that tomorrow is the deadline for the Peace River agreement funding that we have to send into the province. So we will be making a preliminary submission on that, which can be modified after the fact. It's just that it needs to be done, or you have to go for ADM approval. So just wanted to advise that probably at the next meeting, you'll see what the proposed funding for the PRA agreement is.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilor Norbury?
Can you expand for new councillors what that is, what the Peace River Agreement is? I know, but it took me a couple of years to figure it out. So maybe we can explain it to tonight's meeting for our new councillors.
Oh, well, you're asking the newbie here to try and figure that one out. You probably know it better than me, but it's the distribution from oil and gas properties, the funds that come in, and it's been based on a 5-year plan. The last plan, I think we're in year 3, and 2023 is year 3 of the plan. And it was set up with criteria of how those funds could be expended. And that was, one of them was the airport upgrade, asphalt replacement plan, building facilities upgrade, fleet equipment replacement, pump well replacement was one, and I think recreation facilities was another one. I had it here, right here, recreation facilities, and then there was some funding for other projects. So each year, based on the assessment, it's Peace River Regional District tells us the amount of that, and it's 1.9 million, I think, for 2023. I just received that information, and that has to be allocated for one of these categories. And it has to be 80% of the funding needs to go, 85% needs to go towards capital projects. So the other funding can go for things like studies and operational.
Thank you.
Does that cover it?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I was going to ask the same question. Are you good? Okay, is there any questions from council in regards to that? So as we see the budget going through, you'll see where they'll put a slot in there, and maybe, and Natalie, maybe you don't, and that's okay. I just know previously we'd have a slot, there'd be an amount there, and it would say PRD funding. So that's a funding we can't touch. I can't move that money around. If we decide not to go forward with that project, staff would have to find somewhere else that amount would be qualified for. Just on that part. Councilor Norbury.
And if we don't use it, we lose it. So we have to spend this money because it's distributed. If we don't use it, it's gone. So that's important.
But it can be carried forward. I was on the phone with the province. If there was a special project that meet the criteria that you wanted to carry it forward for, you can. So if it wasn't all allocated out and you wish to carry forward the money for a special project that will be higher than what you are allowed to do that.
Thank you for that. I was just about to say the same thing because we did have a carry forward at 1 year. Okay.
Absolutely. And just to expand on that, yes, I plan on bringing it forward with each one of these projects with how it will be funded and what the impact to taxation would be, if it will be, as well as if it will be utilizing capital operating reserves, gas tax, etc.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, any more questions from council? Okay. I guess just a question of staff, when will we see the grant and aid or fee-for-service requests? Do we have a date or a? Okay. Okay. Okay, and is there anything from staff? It's all good? No problem, thank you. Okay, I'll take recommendation for adjournment. Councillor Dussault. Oh,
That the January 30th, 2023 council budget meeting be adjourned.
seconder, Councillor Clickash. All in favor?